Hello, for everybody that's still here. Before we go on to Rafael Nadales, who deals with Liberty's expat insurance, I just want to talk about some things that we do in Citizens Advice Bureau. Citizens Advice Bureau does a few things. One is to inform you, to give you advice and accurate information, and we have lots of fact sheets, and we've all written all sorts of information sheets to make your life easier on how to do everything. The other thing we're really interested in, as you know with Maria, is that you know your rights. And the third thing, and I think the most important, is that we want to save you money. And we've been saving money for our members, and we've only really started last week. And if I have testimonials here, but you wouldn't want to hear them, they just go on and on. One thing Maria did mention at the last seminar, I'm just going to touch on it very quickly, because I think it's really important, but I'll go on to that after I talk about residency status, and I'm going to keep it short. I presume most of you know about residency status, and Tim has talked about, in the old days, really the difference between resident and fiscal resident. In the old days we came here and we just became residents, or we didn't become anything, we just lived here. And we didn't do anything, we didn't register, we didn't go on the padron, which is the census, and now it's coming, things are coming to bear down on us, because there are advantages for being a resident, and now an advantage for being a fiscal resident. And really those, we find a lot of people in our group are the people that didn't take out their residency, and now with the laws changing are finding it very difficult to take out residency. Also people that are not on the padron, there are so many advantages. Let me just quickly say, resident is a resident that lives here, and after, as Tim was saying, 183 days, the 184th day, you're considered to be a fiscal resident. There are advantages there, because if you're carrying on living here as a non-resident, you'll be paying taxes as a non-resident. That means you'll be taxed on your property, on this unforeseen increase in value of your property, instead of the real decrease in the present value of your property. It's still, the valor catastral is still high from when the property market was really high, and the town halls have not brought that down. So, as a non-resident, you're paying taxes every year. Residents, a lot of them will find they'll be exempt from taxes. So, all right, so you're thinking, if I'm exempt from taxes, why do I have to carry out a tax declaration? Very importantly now, if you're all couples and you own your properties, and especially those who have modest properties, again, it's Tim you need to speak to if you've got a nice $1 million or euro villa, because that's a little bit different, but people in modest properties have to think, right, I'm a resident. Two instances here very quickly. One, you go to sell your property, you give the notary your residence certificate, your green one now is small, or the A4 one, and your padron, which he doesn't really want to see there, and you find that they're retaining 3% from your sale of your property. Why? Because he's just looking at your green piece of paper that says you're actually registered in the registry of foreigners. You're not a resident, not a fiscal resident, so you're now going to be treated as non-resident. They will withhold a 3% if you try and sell a property. Doesn't matter if you got. So, very quickly on that one is, even if you're exempt from taxes, at least carry out one declaration a year, so that you're in the system. And after that, before you sell your property, get whoever's dealing with it, your lawyer, to get you a certificado de residencia fiscal, which is a certificate that shows that you are a fiscal resident. Then they will not withhold the 3%. You still pay your taxes on plusvalia. And the other thing as well, which is even more important, if we lose a loved one and you're not a fiscal resident, you're not going to be getting the allowances that Andalusia, which we are in now, will allow you. You're going to be treated, am I right, Rafael? You're going to be treated as if you're not resident, so you're going to be paying, you're not going to have the reductions. It's really important. Now, a lot of people may say, yes, I was a resident, I had the picture card, now I can't renew it, because you go to the police station now to take out residency or renew your residency, and they're asking you for healthcare, they're asking you for X amount in the bank and all sorts of papers. Actually, the law, and I'm going to look, and it's not probably important to you, but it's actually a Royal Decree 240 2007 on the 16th of February. In that law, which gives you everything about residency and rights, it tells you that If you've lived in Spain for 5 years legally, and most of the people who had the old photo card, and a lot here, some may have had it and not renewed it, you've somehow forgotten to renew it, you're still a resident, and you're a resident with what they call carácter permanente, you're a permanent resident. So what happens, you go to the police station, they say, sorry, you have to reapply. In this law, in this Decreto Real, it actually says that anybody, again, who's been a resident for 5 years here, even with the old card, and this is something I'm fighting very much, and I've spoken to various police stations, because they're turning people away and saying we cannot renew. So you're a permanent resident, but sin papeles, like a poor Moroccan person or South American who's here without papers, and that's no good because you won't get your healthcare, you won't get anything. So we've got some tricks. We won't discuss now on how to get your renewed residency if it's run out, because the law says that you should only need your passport, your padrón that's not more than 3 months old. Let me quickly look. Basically, that is it. You don't need all your Form EX18, you pay your tax, your passport, with your padrón, with the usual pages that you do a photocopy, and that should be it, because you're in the system. You go to a police station in Policía Nacional in Estepona and anywhere, except for Fuengirola, and they'll send you away. Contact us. We're fighting on this. We're fighting for what is justice, because I'm calling it sort of, not only in Spain, but in many countries, I've been calling it the year, and the years is going to be of economic cleansing. It's not going to be nationality, it's going to be how much money you've got in your pocket. A lot of you have come here, you've invested, you've bought your home, and there's no reason why now you should be considered a non-resident because you may have fallen on hard times or forgot to renew. Your problem, but you forgot to renew your resident. It's really important, and it's really important to go on the padrón. I think we all know about being registered on the padrón. Dean can talk, and you can always meet up with the Dean, because you get various rights. You get your reductions on your rates. You, of course, the right to vote. You've got loads of savings, and also you can go ahead when you become a pensioner and get your 65 card, la gente 65. You can get your 65 card, which allows you so many reduction on hearing apparatus, on glasses, on respite care homes, if you need to get rid of the partner for a while because he's been a pain, he's not very well, but you can get free reduced stays in the government hotels, you can get into museums. It's a great way to travel around, and the respite home, you were laughing, is a good way to have a holiday as well, and a break from somebody you're caring for. There's also home help. You only get that if you're on the padrón. You're a resident and on the padrón. It's really worth it. And all these people that worry about taxes, you really can be a lot better off here to be a resident, a fiscal resident, because again, your heirs are going to have a terrible shock when they find out that they're not going to be classed as, you're not going to be, the parents are not residents because they weren't fiscal residents. Sorry if I'm going on there, they weren't tax residents. So again, in the past we could use the Certificado de Residencia Fiscal. The certificate lasted for about 5 years, so if you died the second year, you were a fiscal resident. Unfortunately now, the state has decided to give it to you for only 3 months. So we can't really plan, well, you're dying, darling, in 3 months or 2 months, so we better get the certificate to show that we're fiscal residents. Again, this is something that we're going to have to look at, and Raphael would probably know. It's new things are happening all the time. This is to say, and talking about that, I just want to bring up the fact of common law couples, because there's a lot of common law couples. In Spain it's called pareja de hecho. I've had a case that I dealt with accepting what they call acceptencia de herencia, where you have to pay inheritance tax. Anybody who's a common law couple who've made their will and think they're fine, they're not. Unless you're registered on the register here for pareja de hecho common law, you will be treated as non-family members. Instead of paying, say, 1,000 or 700 inheritance tax, you could be paying as much as 10, 12,000 as a common law couple if you're not registered on the register. That's really important. Not only that, common law couples get rights for pensions, which they won't get if they're not registered. You'll get every right. There'll be no discrimination. It's the same-sex couples as well. There'll be no discrimination if you register. Some registers from European countries are acceptable here as well. So common law couples, look at it. It's really... Is your British will valid in Spain? Yes, it is. But I suggest that a will should be made in each country where you have assets. Your British will will be valid here, but at a time when inheritors are going through a lot of worry, a lot of sadness, is when you find that your will now has to go off, say to the UK, or to any other Euro country. It has to go to probate, which means a lawyer here, a lawyer in the UK, whereas it could have been settled with one lawyer here. Because you've got a British will now, it goes to probate, it causes you a lot of expenses and a lot of heartache. So do consider about having a will for each country where you have your assets. I look at Raphael to see if he's telling me there's something wrong.
Don't worry.
Because he knows he does know all about this, the will. So again, common law couple, a will is not good enough, it is not enough, you need to register. And the other thing that people don't realise when it comes to inheritance taxes, when you've drawn up your will, our lawyers have, I call them our lawyers because I like to sound special, and because they help all our members really, lots of free consultations. Inheritance tax, a lot of people think we're going to follow the charts. We have some people on our group that give you charts. You know, if you're an Andalusian couple, you get X amount, X amount. Don't do it that way, don't follow charts. If you talk to our lawyers, they will not just look at the charts, they will do it manually, and they end up bringing it down, 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 down. Besides the Andalusian, what you get for being a resident in Andalusia, they've done marvellous. We've had one person, I can assure you, they calculated her inheritance tax at 150 euros. That's on our Facebook, that's on our group page. 150 euros for somebody who inherited from her mother, who came to us absolutely distraught. She I won't give her name, but she doesn't mind, thinking she was going to pay 30,000, whatever. She was quoted by Raphael, 150 euros. And the other thing is, a lot of people don't realise, even if your loved one dies in another country, you can deduct funeral costs, even the reception, all the costs, medical care, all that. People don't just go to a hair store that doesn't really deal with that. Talk to a lawyer who knows about inheritance tax and can get you all the reductions. Don't just, so many people keep asking on our group, can you give us a chart? How much? It's individual, it all depends on the person. Don't think that there's a rule for all, because there isn't. And if you pay the tax man 7,000, he'll take it, thank you very much, and he won't tell you. He won't give you a penny back. Do it before it's too late. When you do your will, all wills are also kept in Madrid. There's always a copy. The notary will not accept any will without checking that that's the last will and testament. But please sort out, it's not as bad as we think, especially if you're resident. We all think things are worse than they are. They're not. There's no reason to be frightened of the system. Once you're educated, you educate yourself and you know about the system, things are a lot better. It's really important you do it for your heirs. And very quickly on heirs, it's not just your son and daughter, it's your grandchildren as well, it's your niece and nephew who will get these reductions. Okay, things are not as bad as they seem. There are other things that I'm not even looking at the clock, but I'm not going to talk about. I said about the common law couple. Something I said about we love to save money for people, and Maria mentioned it at the last seminars, free healthcare. Do you think there's no free healthcare in Spain, or do you think there is? Anybody can answer that, free healthcare in Spain? There is free healthcare in Spain. You have to earn. If you've been a resident if you were a resident before April of 2012 and you don't earn 100,000 a year, I think this is quite shocking really, you're entitled to free healthcare. We have so many of our members that were stuck and got into difficulties and have now put up on it, and those that belong to our group will say, yippee, thanks to you, we've now got our free healthcare. You'll go to a social security office, and Maria knows this really well, and they'll try and say, what? It's healthcare, it's personas sin recursos, a person without recourse to anything else, to free healthcare. So that's available, and you'll be surprised for how many of you it is available. Okay? I really think that, as usual, I always go through papers and think, what am I going to talk about? I think I've said enough, because we're going to have questions and answers. Again, just very quickly, selling your property as well, or buying a property. Look out, selling your property, especially if you've got a country property. I've had various people that have had a buyer, and I've got a thing here called, you have a buyer, but can you sell? In the country, it's always really important to know if you've done any alterations, you've extended your house, it's not what appears on the notary, on the registry, on the title deeds, your escritura, the compraventa. go and get it sorted out, because if you can't sell it, nobody will give a mortgage. Really important to now and again go and get a notice simply from your town hall to check that your house is really what it is. We've done it for somebody and found they had a mortgage that they never did have. So always check your notice simply. Don't leave it until one day in the future when your poor heirs or whatever are trying to look and go, well, there's a mortgage. Mum and Dad never told us there was a mortgage. Well, there wasn't. It's a mistake. Now and again, go up to the registry and get yourself a notice simply and see if it ties up with your property. And when you're trying to sell, make sure it's all totally legal. You may think it is, and it's not. Okay, I think that's all. We've got questions and answers. I'd like to now pass you on.